Okay, well, let's just talk about the hot story, which is the unit economics of quick commerce companies. It's a raging debate. Mangalam is here with the math of it, how it works out. Mangalam, over to you.
Well, we'll keep it very simple. For a 600 rupee average order value that you make on a quick commerce app, which is pretty close to what both, Eternal and Blinkit reported in the second quarter. What is it that the platform gets? What is it that the platform spends? And more importantly, how much do gig workers get? And how does this scenario play out? So if you look at a 600 rupee order, the take rate or the gross margin is the important thing that the platform gets out here. At 15%, it's about 90 rupees. And then there is brand commission, all the advertisement that happens on these apps. So, 3% of that would amount to 18 rupees. And then there are delivery and other charges which are paid for by the customer, that's you and I, which is about 12, though increasingly companies are waiving this off to boost consumption on these apps. So, that's about 120 rupees that they make. Where is it that they spend their money? Dark store operations and dark store rent account for nearly 11%. So 42 and 24 rupees out there. Rider payout on an average is about 50 rupees per order. And then you have shrinkage and other expenses. So all in all, if you look at just the unit economics of this business, at an average order value of 600 rupees, the revenue that the company makes is 120, fulfillment cost is about 132, and contribution loss is about 12, which means that the contribution margin is a negative 2%. As average order values increase, that's the important parameter to track here for contribution margins to improve. Now, from a gig worker standpoint, quick commerce delivery gives them about 40 to 50 rupees per order. Food delivery gives them about 50 to 70 rupees per order. But remember, food deliveries travel longer distances. So the key metric to track here is earnings per hour. And on an average, that normalizes to anywhere between 90 to 130 rupees on a gross basis. And take those expenses out, it's about 70 to 120. What are the revenue drivers? Average order value. The higher they go, the better it is for operating performance out there. Or you can have a higher gross margin or a higher take rate depending on the product mix that you have, the assortment. What are the key drags here? Rider payout. If the rider payout increases, then that, as we'll see, impacts the business a lot more. Dark store inefficiencies are the others. The important thing that I'll be tracking as we move along are free deliveries and discounting as competition heats up. But that's something that we will track only once, we do see that happening on the ground. So let's talk about the rider payout. That is an important fixed cost. If you look at the average order values of 400, 500, 600, at any rider payouts, obviously all of them are contribution loss making. But I did a stress test and looked at it at upwards of 600 and upwards of 700. The model currently makes more sense at 700 to 750 rupees as order value. And as the next plate comes up for you, currently the rider payout is 50 rupees. So, you just about break even at 700, 750, make a little bit positive, contribution margin at 800 and about 2% at 1,000. But if this 50 rupees goes to about 60 rupees, then your average order value for break-even increases from 750 to about 850. And a further 10 rupee increase to about 70 rupees boosts your contribution or puts further your contribution profitability by another 100 rupees. So for you to make profit as a quick commerce player, the sensitivity to rider payout is extremely high. Currently, the model makes sense at 750 rupees or 700 to 750 rupees. If the rider payout increases by 10 rupees per order, the AOV has to go up by 850 rupees. And if it increases further by another 10 rupees, then the AOV for contribution profitability increases by another 100. So maybe you'd be making profit only at 1,000 rupees.
Very well explained. Thank you very much for that. And to take this forward, we have with us Saravanan CR, COO of Updater Services. We also have Ramani, Dathi, CFO of TeamLease Services. And just to take our viewers through the timeline of the conundrum and, why this quick commerce gig workers payout, the rider payout is in question. Because the standoff between the union workers and these platform companies escalated rapidly towards the end of 2025 in the holiday season. The gig union workers submitted a formal list of 15 demands to the Labour Minister, including a 40,000 minimum monthly wage and a ban on 10-minute delivery, citing safety concerns. On 31st of December in the evening, there was a nationwide strike which began, and the unions claim over 2 lakh workers participated. Dipinder Goyal labelled the strike and the organisers as miscreants. But on 1st of January, these platform companies reported record volume, saying the strike had limited impact. Politicians also stepped in. Raghav Chadha criticised the 10-minute model as inhuman, but Dipinder Goyal defended the model, citing and explaining the monthly services. But the standoff as of now continues. And as Mangalam was pointing out, the operating model, how much the riders need to be paid, decides the entire profitability of this platform. Thank you very much, both of you, for joining in. Ramani, the first question is, do you think the government needs to intervene or leave it to the market forces? And can the gig model survive in its current form if there is an increase in the monthly wages, or if there is a change in the 10-minute model, or if, as Mangalam was saying, right, the current payout is at 40, 50 rupees. If it goes up to 70, 80, how does it change the dynamics, economics?
Hi, Rima. Good morning. So since we are in the business of staffing and hiring these people for the quick commerce companies, as of now, we are not seeing any challenge with the rider payout, which is 50 rupees standard, kind of 50 rupees per delivery. But the bigger issue is in terms of job security or social security benefits. So while a majority of these riders are doing it purely as a gig model, there is a percentage, at least 20% of these riders are doing it like a full-time employment. And this is the percentage where there is a higher demand in terms of social security benefits. Fortunately, in the new labor codes, there is a broad mention about the fact that even the gig workers, because now almost close to 1 crore employees are working, not employees. There are people working in gig format, close to about 1 crore currently. And even the labor codes have mentioned about there should be some sort of social security, but unfortunately they haven't mentioned on like how exactly these social securities would be distributed, because many of these gig workers are working for multiple platforms. It's not like they are working exclusively only with Zomato or only with Swiggy or any other platform. So then how can you define that this is the particular platform that they are, it's their employer? So there are challenges like that. But one thing which we are seeing on ground right now from these platforms is that they are slowly moving a certain percentage of these gig jobs to a full-time contract model. So almost all the back-end logistics and a work which is typically an 8-hour work for the day, those profiles, they're slowly moving to a full-time contract model. So that's a trend that we've been seeing.
Ramani, just to recap the numbers, how many partners are working either part-time or full-time, via the gig economy or for these platform companies? And what percentage, you said, would be doing it full-time, where the social security rules would be applicable?
About 10 to 15% looks like they're working for almost 8 to 10 hours full-time per day. And that's about 10-15% as of now. And during certain peak time, it goes to 20%. But majority, like 80% of these workers are working like a pure gig and working across multiple platforms, not exclusively for a single platform.
So what is the solution for that? As you said, most of them are working for multiple platforms. So the question is, who will bear the cost of the social security? Mr. Saravanan, do you want to come in? I mean, what is the solution to this? If you want to provide safety, you want to provide social security, what's the best way to go about it?
Yeah, good morning. See, as Ramani explained very clearly, the gig workers are inclined towards this, and the potential ability for them to work on their flexible working hours is that something which they are all enjoying it. And with this latest intervention of the central government to have this wage code implemented, the social security part of it is going to play a major role in the overall numbers. If you already look at the numbers, it is not even breaking even at 600 rupees, and even at 50 rupees per rider payout. In these situations, if you are going to increase the social security, especially with the challenge what Ramani posted in terms of people working with multiple platforms, this is obviously going to increase the cost of overall this e-commerce. And at the end of the day, it is going to be the end users like us who are going to pay the cost. But on the flip side of it, people, employees, associates who are working in these e-commerce platforms are willing to continue because it gives them a lot of flexibility. But again, it depends on how much of it can be used for them for the longer run. But I can see a lot of people are slowly moving towards a permanent employment because of the social benefits, because of the long-term benefits which they are getting in. Because now that the payout is also very minimal, and people are slowly intending towards a permanent employment more than a gig workers. But obviously, the payout will make a big difference for the whole engagement.
it's a question which is not knowable at this point, but let me ask it anyway. Prashant here. Good morning. Ramani, do you think this issue will remain a sort of, it'll keep coming up as a political hot potato? I mean, it's not going to go anywhere, right? I mean, someone or the other will keep raising it because there are arguments to be made on both sides and strong ones.
I can't comment on the political angle to this, but definitely, since this is a sizable chunk of people who are involved, close to 1 crore cumulative all put together, and this has really been taken up even at the state government's level and local government level, and lack of even basic security like insurance, because the insurance that the platforms that are providing are purely for the job related insurance, not any ESIC or any other medical insurance, just like how any other employee or a full-time contract employee would get. So that is the primary demand, and which is actually a genuine ask. And how this cost will be borne by these platforms is a question, but to be very honest, there is no other choice other than passing it on to the end users and end customers. And while some platforms have already started shifting some of these jobs and converting them to an employment model, it's not like they're making them or paying them anything higher. So typically an average rider, purely in a gig format, if that person is making about 21,000 per month, even after converting that person to a FTC, it's the same cost that the platforms are bearing, more or less. In fact, the take home is going below 21,000 because a percentage of that number has to go into PF contribution, ESIC contribution, gratuity, and others. So this is the main reason why even a large chunk of workers are still preferring the gig model rather than switching to a contract or a full-time employment model. So it's also a choice of the worker here, not just the platforms.
Just to that point about it being a political hot potato and this issue, constantly coming up, being a sort of a Damocles sword, the union claimed that more than 2 lakh people participated in the strike that took place on 31st of December. And yet on 1st of January, when these companies reported orders, it was at a record high. So it's, even if some people do participate in the strike, the number of people who are willing to do this, either, as a flexi or permanent, is just so much that I guess there is demand at, every price point and every...
Shilpa was telling us that the union itself is not, it's very unorganized. It's split across so many platforms, across states, etc. So the union may call for something, but it's not as if, it's very difficult to tell how many will participate, not participate, adhere to it or not.
And it's not at a nationwide scale also. It was just, a few union workers. So Ramani, is there any, other issue that you see to the gig model? And give us the growth projections also. What you've seen at TeamLease, because in the past you've spoken about how this is the single biggest engine of growth for you now.
Yeah, this is one of the largest growth engines for us. In fact, over the last 2 years, it has been consistently giving us the highest number of open positions, even though we are catering only to the FTC model, not much on the gig model. And we believe that this model will continue to grow because now this is spreading across tier 2, tier 3 cities as well. So far, majority of the hiring that we are doing are largely in tier 1 cities and metros, but now even tier 2, tier 3 are catching up in terms of overall hiring.
Can you share some numbers for you at TeamLease? What percentage, what has been the growth last year? What are the open positions right now?
Yeah. So overall, out of the total headcount of TeamLease, currently we have about 6% of the total base with quick commerce and e-commerce related profile. And out of this, if I take only annual growth, out of that, close to 20 to 25% growth is coming from retail, quick commerce / e-commerce, this segment.
Okay. And is it possible to break up quick commerce and e-commerce? Because e-commerce has been there for a while. It's only quick commerce which has now come up in a big way.
Yeah. No, currently it's mainly quick commerce because e-commerce has been steady and the numbers could be about 10-20%, but majority is right now what we are seeing as new open positions, majority are with quick commerce companies. And in any given month, currently we are doing about 3,000 to 4,000 numbers purely for quick commerce related profiles.
Okay, Mr. Saravanan, Ramani, thank you very much for joining us on this discussion. We're out of time. Great to have you both share your insights.